Tonight's show is really two stories that sort of wind in together. And we started by going back to Nestle. If you remember in the last series, we sort of chased Nestle around a bit over the issue of baby milk powder, because there is a problem with baby milk powder, and I'm sure you're aware. You're going, yeah, Martin, the dealers are cutting it into the Coke. There's not going to mix, man. And there is a problem, because if in the developing world, if you live near contaminated water, if you misuse the product, it could result in infant mortality. And the World Health Organization believed that if you can reverse the downward trend in breastfeeding, you could save 1.5 million children's lives a year. So it's quite an important thing. And one of the basic things here is to get the information on the packages in languages that people understand. And what we found was in Malawi they hadn't done it, in South Africa they hadn't done it, in Pakistan there's problems, and we didn't really get answers that were satisfactory to why they were doing it. The main question we were saying is, how come you can print 3 languages on packages in Switzerland, French, Italian and German, you can print them. In South Africa, just English, no Zulu, no Xhosa, no Afrikaans. How can you do it in Switzerland, but not in South Africa? Then we got invited out to Barcelona, to this News World conference, which is this international conference of news gatherers and investigative journalists. And for some reason, we've been asked to give a keynote speech. In front of all these sort of like real sort of hard-nosed investigative journalists. So we get up on stage and I start talk through what we do. And I thought, well, we're here. We've got 250 journalists in the room. Let's use them. I'm standing in a room with about 250 journalists, and some of them just wanted to ask you a few questions. We've put you through on speakerphone so people can hear, and I just wondered if we could just ask a couple of questions about the... well, just asking about... so we can't ask you questions. Well, if you won't talk to me, will you talk to this bloke? And I passed the phone over to this guy we talked to beforehand. He went, hello, I'm the head of Reuters. Now, I would like to ask... You really are very keen to ask you some questions.
I can't improvise the answers right now. I told you last time when we met here.
And he wouldn't talk to this guy, so I cut the phone and said, oh, OK, I'll pass you to someone else. Hello, I'm in charge of BBC World News. I'd like to know, how come?
We just wanted to check that Nestle does comply with the World Health Organization code.
Of course we do. We have always said we do.
Another guy comes on. Hello, I'm from Swedish television. 20 years ago, I make a programme about Nestle and this problem. I'm very disappointed it is still going on. Another guy comes forward. Hello, I'm from Kenya. I'm actually African, which means I do have a vested interest in this.
Sir, my name is Hemani, and I'm actually from Africa. And when I did find out today that some of these labels are not labeled adequately, in South Africa particularly, the only language used is English and not in any of the languages that are officially recognized. I mean, I find that quite difficult to believe. Can you tell me a bit more?
Mr. Renk isn't having a nice time. And he said, no, I will get answers to you. I said, look, I've got 250 journalists here baying for answers. And he said, I'm not sure that they are. I cut the receiver and said, look, if you all want answers, will you all shout yes? Okay.
Did you hear that? They all shouted yes.
I said, I'll tell you what, I'll get all their names and addresses, fax them over to you, then you can reply to them individually. OK. And it's great, because during the conversations we're having, you can hear these journalists in the audience going, he's not answering the questions. And as we're there at the News World Conference, we thought, well, look, there's a basic problem here, which is Nestle is this sort of, $50 billion a year company. They're enormous. $7 billion a year is spent on PR and advertising. A couple of people trying to crack it aren't going to do it. We need to work together. And so I said to the journalists, look, in the spirit of kind of trying to cooperate, we've got a nice little story that you might be interested in. We've found a patent, a GM patent. And the GM patent is for a company called PPL. And PPL have got a lot of financial links with the Rosalind Institute, who gave us Dolly the sheep. Now, the patent is for a genetically modified cow that will produce the human proteins in human breast milk in the cow's udder. And I thought, my first thought was there has to be a baby milk company involved here somewhere, right? There has to be. Nestle said it was nothing to do with them, right? If you're making human breast milk in a cow, you have to be looking to put it into powdered form and sell it in tins, because the other alternatives just aren't viable. You know, you'll get sort of well-to-do couples in Islington walking around with an au pair and a cow. The baby's hungry, get it to the barn. You know, it's just... That's just... Or maybe they want to actually introduce it for us for wholesale consumption in our food produce. They were going to use human breast milk to make things with. You know, they're going into Starbucks. I'd like a Frappuccino latte human breast milk with cinnamon on the top. You know. There'll be adverts with Sigmund Freud lookalike sitting there going, Oedipus Schmiedipus makes great cappuccino. You know. So I thought they've got to be using a baby milk company here. And our hunch was a company called Wyeth were involved here in the funding of the research programme. And Wyeth make SMA baby milk. It's Britain's top-selling brand. So we get back to Britain, and we get this phone call out of the blue. Somebody phones us up and goes, just thought you might like to know, the chief executive of Nestlé, Mr. Brabeck, the man at the top of the big world biggest food corporation, is coming to England today. I said, really? They said, yeah. I said, where? They said, Oxford, Oriel College, 7:30. Right, we're there. Now, we rushed down there, OK, and it's all being kept very secret and hush-hush. And I don't know if you know the Oxford colleges, they're all sort of big walled compound, medieval-type things with spikes and spires, and you expect a few plague victims and a ducking sword or something. And I thought, we're not going to get through, we're just not going to get through. We're just waiting around outside thinking, fuck, we've got to try and do something, man. And suddenly the door opens. And this woman stands on the other side. The student just went, you're Mark Thomas. I know why you're here. You better come in. And we're like, wow. So we're inside this Oxford walled college. Right, you go underground through this tunnel and come up on the other side of the street in a gated walled compound. There's security guards everywhere. There's these big sort of burly fellas walking around, because this is the chief executive of Nestlé, you know, he wants his security. At the door they're saying you have to show your student union cards, and we're like, oh, we haven't got one of those. Oh, God, maybe if I talk about dance music enthusiastically, they'll think I'm young, you know, or something like that. Yo, happening, can I come in? But, I don't know what young people are listening to. I still think it's outrageous they use guitars. So I'm sort of, you know... So we're standing outside, and someone else comes up to us and go, I know who you are, I know why you're here. So I've walked into the room. Because they've taken bags and stuff, I've had to put the camera down the pants. Right, so I'm walking down. It doesn't do my soul very much good. Self-image, quite boosted. But... walk in there with the camera down my pants. I'm walking in the room, and as I walk in, there's a woman who's the head of corporate affairs sitting in the front row. And she's clocked me. And I quite like her, actually, on a personal level, because she's quite a personable person. And I saw her, and she must have been thinking, this is great, the chief executive of the firm, the big man is here today, the security's good, everything's going to... What the fuck is he doing here? And she came up to me and just went, Mark, why, yeah, what? Oh. I said, well, I'm just here to listen to the speech. So, sit down, and Mr. Brabeck starts talking about corporate trust. And they come to questions at the end. And I've slipped the camera out and given it to Jack. And Jack's sort of like, great, I've got the camera, why is it warm? And I've given him the camera. I put my hand up and say, hello.
My name's Mark Thomas from Channel 4, we're filming this at the moment. I just wanted to pick you up on a couple of things. One was you mentioned, I thought it was great you mentioned the Zimbabwe letter from Dr. Timothy Stamp, because I spoke to him recently. And there's a couple of points here. One is the fact that he actually criticised Nestlé in that letter, and actually said that Nestlé broke the code with regard to marketing Cerelac.
They're swarming all over Jack, putting hands over you, can't film, you can't film. I just thought, we're not going to be able to... They're swamping the poor fucking cameraman. I just shouted across the room, Mr. Brabeck! Yes, what do you want? Mr. Brabeck, do you object if we film your answer? And he looked at these 20 students...
Thank you very much indeed.
And all the security guards back off. And we film his answer. Now, we'd raised a couple of issues. We'd raised Zimbabwe, which is one of the things that we talked about in the last show, about Nestlé. And what Nestlé have done is they've spent massive amounts of money on getting this booklet made. They've written to all the governments that they sell their products, the countries of the governments that sell the products in, and they said, what is the state of play with us and the World Health Authority code